Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to join us for this Better Nutrition Expert interview conversation. I promise you it's going to provide so much value for you, whether you are currently pregnant, thinking about being pregnant, partnering someone who is pregnant, have a daughter who is pregnant, you get the drift. If you're a practitioner or who has clients who are pregnant, this is for you as well. So I am Ashley Koff, registered dietitian and CEO of the Better Nutrition Program. And the Better Nutrition Program is a company that offers practitioner-developed assessment tools, nutrition assessment tools, to make sure that you and your patients know exactly what's going in and on your body most often, and if it's better for you. And when is that more important than during pregnancy? Almost never. It's so important for us to know and to really understand, but also at the same time for our nutrition to not stress us out extra, because there's so much stress during that time period, both good stress because you're excited and maybe some challenging stress because things are overwhelming or you're just trying to exist in your life with a growing body. So a lot of things we're going to dive into today. Just a couple of housekeeping rules or situations. If you are watching us at a time that is better for you, i.e. not live, no worries. You can still get your questions answered by our expert. So go ahead and just drop them in the question box and I'll make sure that she gets them. If you are watching us live tonight, we'd love to know where you're joining us from and also if you have any questions. So please ask those. I've already gotten some of the questions that several of you submitted. This is a hot topic tonight, so I'll make sure that we answer those going along the way. And I always love to kick this off by defining the word expert. You know, there's a lot of confusion out there today with who is giving nutrition advice, who should be giving nutrition advice. And my belief is that a better nutrition expert is somebody who is science-based, somebody who has learned the science, who has studied the science, so they may not have done so in a programmatic format, but has studied science, but then is also what we call practice-based, which means that they are somebody that's putting this evidence into practice so that they really can help you, the individual, make better decisions and really help you with a personalized plan, because science is not specific to each one of us. That's why we have better nutrition experts and practitioners. So to that end, I'm super excited to have Mama and Sweet Pea Nutrition here today, Meghan McMillin. And we were just chatting. Gosh, there's so much about pregnancy that we could talk about. And of course, we're going to answer your questions. But our goal tonight is to make sure that you know Meghan is an incredible expert for you to come to. I was on her website, such a wealth of information there for pregnancy and also for lactation. So we're going to talk all about that. So Meghan, I thought by way of introduction, I would start off, and I was just mentioning about who is a better nutrition expert. So I thought I would have you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about kind of how you got the science and also how you got not just the practitioner-based experience, but you have some personal experience with this pregnancy nutrition stuff.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so happy to be here. So a little bit about me. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I'm also a board certified lactation consultant. So I started my, I became a dietitian about 7 years ago. Actually, I'm trying to think of when that was. I don't remember now. But it's been about 6 or 7 years, 8 years. And I had my master's degree in nutrition. And then I went on to specialize in women's health, pediatric nutrition, and eventually became that board certified lactation consultant. So I have 2 little kiddos. They are 5 and almost 3. Mm. And so I knew from a pretty young age, actually, even before I ever went back to school to get my master's degree in nutrition, because this is actually a second career for me. I knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to work with women and children. It was something that I was kind of surrounded by growing up. And it was something that just stayed with me throughout my life. And so I knew at some point that that was what I wanted to do. A lot of my focus during school was on, women and children and prenatal nutrition and nutrition during lactation. So I was just super excited to get ready and get out there and get started.
Oh, I love it. So, what I say to people is eating for one these days is like super confusing, frustrating. There's all sorts of inputs. Should we be keto, vegan, or ketotarian, as I just saw, which is plant-based keto. And, just there's all this stuff that's out there. And then we add on top that during pregnancy, we're being told all of these things that we should be doing for the baby, and we're very well intentioned, right? We want to focus on that health. So what do you think is probably and what, both from personal experience and from a practitioner standpoint, what do you think is the place that is the most important place to start when you're trying to figure out what you should be adding or subtracting or need to focus on from your pregnancy nutrition?
That's a great question. I really think, honestly, the best place to start is to start where you're at. And I know that sounds really vague, but women are in all sorts of different stages of health and stages of nutrition when they become pregnant. So I really feel like just first of all, knowing where you're at in that moment and then doing anything you can to improve. So, we talk about, a lot of people say during pregnancy that you're eating for two. And I know we're really trying to get away from that because technically you're not eating for two if you think about calorie and energy and things like that. But I focus more on nourishing for two. So what I really like to tell women is, okay, let's start with where you are right now and what can we do to just make things a little bit better. So what's like one simple step that you can take every day just to make your nutrition a little bit better? Is it adding in another serving of vegetables? Is it cutting back on the amount of soda that you're drinking? Is it getting in a 30-minute walk every day? Is it having breakfast? Because a lot of people skip meals every day. So I really like to keep it simple in the beginning. And as you mentioned, being pregnant can be really stressful. And while I do really think that, nutrition is very important during pregnancy, there's a lot of other things going on. And I don't ever want women to feel like this is something that's going to stress them out. So I really like to start with just simple things that we can do today that are easy and not too overwhelming. And then we can go from there.
Awesome. And Betty Ann was asking what was the topic. And so Betty Ann, I hope it's cleared up for you that we're talking about pregnancy nutrition. Thank you. I may have forgotten to include that in my introduction. But yes, we are talking about pregnancy nutrition and, to your point, nourishing the body. I love that, nourishing for two. Speaking of breakfast, I had a question come to me about with a pregnant woman that I think this is something that in general many of us deal with outside of pregnancy, but also becomes amplified. And that is she's not skipping breakfast because she doesn't believe in it, but she just doesn't feel hungry, and it feels like a lot of things are upsetting to her stomach first thing in the morning. So for a pregnant woman, I always start with, do not take your prenatal on an empty stomach. Like, that's not the win, right? So from that point on, what would you say to someone who is waking up in the morning? Like, is there a time frame in which you really need to have something in your system? And what are some of the recommendations for how to do that part?
Well, if you're talking about specifically during pregnancy,
yes.
I personally, my preference would be that women eat something within 2 hours of waking up. Okay. When you're talking about the first trimester, though, and you throw in morning sickness and nausea and all that, that kind of changes the game a little bit. In that situation, I usually tell women to do whatever you can, like do the best you can, because that first trimester can be really tricky. You're experiencing nausea, you're experiencing fatigue. A lot of women have pretty strong food aversions. The smell of food makes them sick. So in that situation, I would just say do what you can. If it's not in the first trimester, or if you're not experiencing morning sickness, but again, you're just that type of person who just doesn't really want to eat in the morning, I would recommend doing something light, even if it's just a piece of whole wheat toast with some almond butter on it, or maybe even a smoothie. I find that a lot of people can usually drink more than they can actually eat. So like taking foods in via liquid is easier than actually consuming something solid. So that's probably where I would start.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I had a woman say to me, like, is it okay to have potato chips? And I was right there with you. I'm like, if it, I just look for them to be a little bit better, like from real potato. And I was like, go with it, if it's that first trimester, but also on that part. So another question that came up was around the whole idea of everything that you have to avoid during pregnancy, right? So, okay, like, I mean, it's just like the list that makes everybody cry. It's like, here, goodbye to my wine, goodbye to my chocolate, goodbye to my coffee. And there are varying beliefs within that space. So what I want to focus on, and I love this, in your pre-interview notes, you were really talking about this, like, what are some of the things to find a way to, especially if you're a foodie or somebody who really enjoys those choices, how do you help people navigate the, like, yes, you can, like, if we're instead of here's all the list of things to avoid, how do you do the things of, how do you do the things to help you feel more excited about that part?
Sure. I think it depends a little bit on specifically what we're talking about, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there actually about what women can and can't eat or should and shouldn't eat during pregnancy.
So let's start there. Let's break down those misconceptions. Yes.
Sure. So one of them is coffee or caffeine. A lot of women believe that they have to cut it out completely during pregnancy, which just isn't true. You can still have some coffee. You can still have chocolate, which has caffeine in it. You can still have caffeinated tea. You could still have soda, technically. There's just a recommended maximum of caffeine per day, which is 300 milligrams. And so depending on what type of coffee you're drinking, whether it's like Folgers versus Starbucks, you could be having 3 cups of coffee a day and still be within that limit. A small cup of Folgers has, I think, around 70 milligrams of caffeine versus a tall coffee from Starbucks has about 300. So that's one of the ones that is, there's this misconception about you don't have to cut caffeine out at all.
You just got like 10 hearts. So just FYI, I think the combination of coffee and chocolate, and I think what people are afraid of is like, is that today's information, or was it the strictness of it before was like, it's like the egg, right? Like we weren't supposed to have eggs and now we can have eggs. Are we going to find out later and then they're going to be upset, that their kids that there was an issue with that part? How long have we known that some caffeine is okay for pregnancy?
For quite some time. And then, there's always special circumstances. There's definitely some instances, some individual cases where, that might change just depending on the woman's history and her fertility history. There might be some reasons to tweak that. But in general, that's been a pretty standard recommendation for quite some time.
Great. This is not a fad or that kind of recommendation. Okay,
no.
So I think that well answers the person who was feeling very restricted on that part. I had another woman, and I think anyone who so I have not had kids, but I also have worked with plenty of patients, and the test that makes me the most upset, I think across the board of like all tests that are out there, is the gestational diabetes test. So I want to jump into that space because I think it's, again, so misunderstood. And I had one client, one person write in from today who said she just doesn't understand the whole gestational diabetes thing. She's thin, healthy, but she loves to have sweet things. And so she's just worried that she's going to end up, because she likes to have her sweet things during pregnancy, that she's going to have gestational diabetes. What's the recommendation or what's going on with that? So maybe we can start off with you actually defining what gestational diabetes is, and then talk a little bit about how you think pregnant women can eat optimally to prevent that ideally.
Sure, yeah. So gestational diabetes is basically insulin resistance that happens during pregnancy. So in most cases, the woman is not a diabetic when she's not pregnant. There is some research that's showing now that women who tend to have gestational diabetes might be at higher risk for developing type 2 in the future. But in general, it's what it is, it's insulin resistance only during pregnancy. And so it's diagnosed in a couple of different ways. There's usually somewhere in the second half of the second trimester, the woman's been asked to drink this really kind of nasty drink. It tastes like really warm Gatorade, kind of. It's called glucola. It's basically just sugar water. And so what they're looking for is they're looking to see how quickly or how within normal your body's response is to that sugar load. And so depending on the results of your blood sugar after drinking that drink, so you drink the drink and then you have to wait an hour and then they test your blood sugar. And depending on where your blood sugar is, you're either considered at risk or not at risk. If the blood sugar comes back high, they're going to want to do another test, which is a 3-hour test. So this is a 3-hour fasting test, where after 3 hours, they will check your blood sugar. And again, depending on where you are then, if your blood sugar is high at that point, then you will get an official diagnosis of gestational diabetes, which means a lot of different things for a lot of different women. It doesn't automatically mean that you're going to be on insulin. It can still be diet and lifestyle controlled. But there does seem to be some risks involved with your pregnancy and to the baby if it's not controlled. So it's definitely something that's serious. But nutrition plays a really big, important role in managing it. You asked about kind of preventing it. It's hard to say, to be honest with you, because it's not caused by eating too much sugar. We know that. Like you don't get gestational diabetes from consuming a lot of sugar during pregnancy or before pregnancy. There does seem to be some correlation to weight gain, but again, there's not a direct causation there. So if you gain 70 pounds in your pregnancy, it doesn't mean automatically that you'll have gestational diabetes. So in general, I tell women to just consume an overall healthy diet, focusing on whole foods, and getting some exercise as much as they can.
I think that's so important because I've had, and I think just echoing that, it's like, I've had very thin, healthy women who have been pregnant and gotten gestational diabetes, and I've had overweight, healthy women who have got, so I think we don't know. I think there's some supposition around the blood volume just expanding, but that nutrient balance, I think, can be key. So actually, great segue. Somebody also had asked us about fitness. So she's active and now pregnant and wanted to know what are the rules for eating before and after. And I think also if you can include in your answer just any guidance for a fitness professional that would be working with pregnant women. What do you want to make sure that you're checking on, throughout? And obviously there's it's 9 months. So there's a lot of different stages during that time period. But let's see what we can dive into there.
Yeah, so I'll preface this by saying that I am not a fitness expert. So in terms of like specific exercises or things that need to be modified, I don't really know. That would definitely be a good question for a personal trainer or a fitness expert. But in terms of nutrition, I think it's really focusing on the same things that we would be focusing on when you're not pregnant. Making sure that you're consuming enough carbohydrates to fuel your body, focusing on protein afterwards to restore the muscles that you've been using, making sure that you're staying hydrated, I think is a big thing during pregnancy. But those are the really, I think, the key things. Again, there's definitely going to be some instances where you'll want to make some modifications, but I think that's probably a better question for a fitness expert.
And do you find when we talk about hydration, getting more specific on that part, because I think one of the issues is if you're drinking water, you feel like you have to pee all the time. So do you find that, spacing it out, or are there any hydration tips that you have that might be helpful for pregnant women, both around fitness, but just in general in terms of hydration?
Right. So the guideline is the guideline is the same really during pregnancy as it is for non-pregnancy. It's about eight cups a day. So 64 ounces is the goal. I usually tell women, my clients, to drink to thirst because I think 8 cups sometimes is excessive for some people. You just don't need it. But I also do, to be honest with you, the best way to check is to look at your urine. I know that's not a very fancy topic, but that's really the best way to know how well hydrated you are. Like you mentioned, a big problem then is then you have to urinate frequently, and especially at night that can become a hassle because a lot of women are already not sleeping well. So cutting off your water intake or your fluid intake probably by 8 p.m., maybe even a little bit earlier is your best bet. I always advise women to carry a water bottle with them, like a stainless steel or a glass water bottle with them, just so that they have it with them at all times, and just, sip on it throughout the day.
That's great. So something that on the opposite side of movement, one of the challenges is that pregnancy itself can be constipating. So, depending on if you're lowering your activity or if the baby is sitting directly on your belly, like, on your intestines, that can be a factor. So what are some of the things, and then adding on top, bringing in iron, which was actually where the question came up. So what are some of your pro tips for addressing constipation during pregnancy? Just diving right into all the fun topics. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the first thing I would say is that because you mentioned the iron, and so we do talk about iron supplementation for pregnant women because we have this blood volume that's expanding, and therefore our iron needs increase. But a lot of times I don't know that every woman needs an iron supplement, at least not right off the bat. So if it's an issue for women, especially in their first and second trimester, and they're not anemic, I would actually recommend a prenatal without iron. That's one solution. The other thing is that there's certain forms of iron that actually are less constipating. So like ferrous fumarate is one that's pretty constipating. Ferrous sulfate is another one that's pretty constipating. And those actually are the most common ones that are found in prenatals or even on their own. So I often will advise women to look for a different form of iron that's less constipating. Iron glycinate is a good form. It's usually less constipating. So that's one option, is the iron itself, is either taking it out if you're able to, or changing the form of iron that you're taking. Other really good things for constipation is just boosting your fiber. I like to recommend chia seeds a lot to women. It's something you can add on to a salad. You can throw it in a smoothie. You can put it on yogurt. They're really good for helping getting the bowels moving. Drinking plenty of water, that's another one, because especially if we're increasing our fiber, then we want to make sure we're increasing our water with that as well. Just getting moving, like we were just talking about exercise, even just going for a nice walk after your meals, a brisk 20-minute walk will really help keep your digestive system functioning well. There's a lot of other options in terms of fiber. Beans and lentils, fresh fruits and vegetables are great. Flaxseed can actually be helpful too, just like the chia seeds. Again, that's something you can really easily just toss on a salad or put into a smoothie. I wouldn't really recommend taking any type of, stool softener or laxative without talking to your doctor for sure, just to make sure, because not everything is safe to take during pregnancy. So if it's something that's an ongoing issue, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed with your provider.
Yeah. Speaking of doctors or just things you should probably talk about, there are a lot of fad diets that are playing around. Some are restricting time frames, so like intermittent fasting. I had somebody ask me if they thought that fasting in general was safe during pregnancy. The easy answer there is no, no.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But some of the other things may not feel so easy in terms of answers. So just running through a list, if somebody's choosing to be or needs to be gluten-free or dairy-free, is it fine for them to continue that during pregnancy? And likewise, I'd love for you to comment on, keto, paleo, and vegan. We'll just throw them all right into the mix there. What's okay? What's not okay?
Oh gosh, that's kind of a loaded question, actually.
Yes, that's right. I'm happy to share my thoughts if you need to back up or to see how different dietitians might have differing opinions. So go for it. Yeah.
I can definitely comment on a few of those.
Yeah.
So for anybody that's gluten-free or dairy-free, whether it's because you have celiac or you have an allergy, or even if you just have an intolerance and you feel better when you don't eat those foods, perfectly fine and safe during pregnancy. There are perhaps some nutrients that you would want to make sure that you're getting in a different form or in a different food group. With dairy, calcium, vitamin D, iodine is actually a really big nutrient that's found in dairy that's important during pregnancy. So making sure that you are able to get those from other food sources, which is why it might be helpful to work with a registered dietitian if you find yourself in that situation. If you're eliminating gluten, you might have some complications getting enough B vitamins, especially. Fiber might be an issue as well. So again, with that constipation. What else did you ask about?
Keto, paleo, ketotarian, vegan, like the list of what we'll say, current diet trends, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
So my general response to keto or intermittent fasting during pregnancy is no. That's my general response.
Yeah.
I will say that a caveat to that is I am not a keto expert, to be honest with you. So I don't, I know that the woman's body actually is in a little bit of ketosis naturally in pregnancy. So that being said, there's something going on in the woman's body that's causing a little bit of ketosis, not an acidosis, but just a regular ketosis. But doing a keto diet during pregnancy, I think you're going to run into some difficulty meeting your nutrient needs.
I love it. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where my focus is on. Like, I don't have, any agenda, pro or against keto. But in pregnancy, I think that because most of our nutrient needs increase, I think when you're eliminating big food groups, or you are eliminating macronutrients altogether, I think you're going to have some trouble meeting those specific nutrients.
Yeah, and just to echo that, I feel like it can feel like a tough answer because you don't want to say to someone, hey, the diet you've chosen isn't a good dietary choice. But even for those that are not pregnant, just doing keto, is it can be if your body's needs don't change even if you're doing keto, so you're going to have to get those nutrients. I think what I would say is you'd really have to be working with an expert, a practitioner that could totally dial in your supplements, and it's probably going to be a lot of supplements, on that part, which probably would get you out of ketosis anyway. But and I love the comment on intermittent fasting was really what we talked about before, which is you were saying I think that's such a smart. Hey, within about 2 hours of waking, you should have something. So, if you're eating in a more time-restricted time frame, you could probably eat for 10 or 12 hours, but just don't not eat in the morning. If you want to stop eating earlier and you've met your nutrient needs, I think you could probably. But again, I'd want that to be something that you're tracking with an expert, or with whoever you're working with on that part. Okay.
And I think the same thing goes, we've been talking about keto a lot, but I think the same thing goes, honestly, even with a vegan diet. I think there's concerns there too with, nutrients that might not be being met. We know that vitamin B12 is a big issue, and any pregnant vegan woman would have to supplement with B12 and possibly some other things I would be concerned about. Their iron stores as well. So it's a challenge. It definitely is a challenge. And you're right. You don't want to ever tell anybody that their ideals with diet or their values with food and nutrition, or their, a lot of times it's tied to religion. And so it can get really complicated. Yeah. But I think we have to have those honest conversations.
And that's where I want to bring us back to actually how you started off. I think it was so meaningful to talk about how you stated in the beginning that you help women just do, I'll use my words here, but do one thing better, but try to, what's one way, but also that notion of knowing where you are starting out, because if you've been a vegan or just however you've been eating, you might not have gotten in enough of a certain nutrient anyway. I'll use myself, I don't get in orange foods very often, and I had to work on that part, not for pregnancy, but just because I realized, wow, I don't get in orange, so let me start working on that part. So I think that collaboration notion that you brought up in the beginning, so I kind of want to unpack that a little bit further, which is, so first of all, how if somebody wanted to work with you, how do you work with a client around their pregnancy? Do you want to see them before they're pregnant? Do you see them once they're pregnant? Take us through that a little bit.
Sure. So ideally, I would love to follow women the whole way through. So preconception through pregnancy and even into the postpartum period. I do that on occasion. The majority of the women that I work with have come to me already pregnant. Oh, maybe that's not true, actually. They're either already pregnant or they are in the conception process. They're trying to conceive. So I do see women on both ends of that spectrum. And a lot of times I do see them all the way through, which is great. I really love to have to be a part of the whole journey with them. It's really kind of powerful, and special. But, the majority of the women that I help are either currently pregnant or are trying to become pregnant.
Got it. And when they first come to see you, is it a conversation? How are you engaging with them to sort of figure out where they are currently nutritionally?
Yes, we have a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
So there's an initial health form that I have them fill out, and then we go into much more detail, where I like to get a really pretty in-depth, medical history and diet history. They fill out questionnaires for me that I ask them, such as how often do you eat red meat, or how often do you eat fish, or how often, how many servings of vegetables do you have every day? I do ask them to actually keep a food journal for me. So I have all of that information. I'll ask them for, any blood work or lab results, testing that they've had done through their doctor. So we can kind of navigate that together as well. I also really just like to kind of ask them, just tell me flat out, where do you think you're at? What do you think of your current, diet, or your current state of nutrition, or your current state of health? And what are your goals? Because it can be very one-sided sometimes. And I don't want to be the one just constantly talking and saying, well, you should do this, or you could do this better, or you should do this. That relationship doesn't work well. I think it's much more helpful to have them tell me what they think would work for them. I think clients should be the ones setting their goals and setting the expectations, because I think then it's much more meaningful and much easier for them to achieve.
I like that. So speaking of things to achieve, we're going to flip we were just talking about the beginning of the experience, and now I want to talk about, I hear all the time that it just, breastfeeding, lactation, just not there's a lot of support out there now. I think that the veil is off, that this is just, it's so easy, and this is instinctual, and but one of the key questions that I get a lot is there anything about your nutrition during pregnancy that can help you optimize the potential for a better experience with breastfeeding? So I'm curious on the nutrient front, if there's anything that, especially for those patients that you're working with, sort of you have the ability to work with them through their pregnancy, are there things you're targeting for their lactation?
So I think the things that they can do during pregnancy that will help them establish a good milk supply to begin with, or to get off on a good foot with their breastfeeding relationship is, there's two things. One is managing their blood sugars, and the other is managing their blood pressure. And because those two things, gestational diabetes and gestational hypertension or preeclampsia, actually can cause your milk to be delayed in coming in. There's been a lot of research that shows that women who have those conditions during pregnancy don't get a full supply, or it comes in much later than most women. And so that in itself can be very frustrating. And I think that a lot of times that causes women to give up, or, not think it's going to work for them. In terms of nutrition specifically during pregnancy, I don't know that there's really anything that would affect their ability to breastfeed. But we know that mom's stores definitely affect the nutrient content of her milk. So especially things like iron is a really big one. So making sure that mom does have adequate iron stores during pregnancy and is not anemic, and does have adequate stores in the postpartum period, because all of that iron is going to be transferred through the milk and affect baby's iron status. So that's really important for sure. Vitamin D as well. vitamin D does pass through breast milk. There's a big myth, a big misconception out there that's kind of being passed around, and that there's no vitamin D in breast milk, which just isn't correct. The problem is moms are deficient.
Okay.
So moms don't have enough to support their own bodies and pass through their milk. And so if mom has adequate vitamin D stores, more than likely her milk has adequate vitamin D in it. So vitamin D is another really big one as well.
That's so important. And vitamin D is so critical for appropriate blood sugar. So there you go, like in terms of bringing it all together. Okay, I always do this. I have like 30 other questions I could ask. So what we'll do is we'll plan to have another time, because there's, as you're talking, I'm like, oh, what about this, etc. But Meghan, I just wanted to say thank you so much, because I feel like your approach to talking about pregnancy nutrition is so comforting. Like it just feels like, oh, okay, I can do this, that, and so I just want to share that with anyone who's watching this, both now or, if you're watching it at a time that's better for you. And if you know anyone who maybe has just had it up to here and is really stressed out or intimidated by doing pregnancy nutrition properly, remind them that it's finding their better way, and Meghan at Mama and Sweet Pea Nutrition can help them. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you so much. It was great to be here.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.